a pit loom, some tie and dye yarn, and lots of expert hand movements. The end result, a symphony of colors and designs. Located in western Orissa is the historic Ikat handloom cluster of Barpali. Using tie and dye yarn, weavers here produce an enchanting fabric that has a market not only in Orissa but also all over the country. Some weavers produce directly for the market. Others take up orders from master weavers who retail the products themselves. All in all, the cluster, with over 2,000 looms, has an annual production of around 7 crore rupees. However, the cluster has been facing threats. Looms are often idle and many artisans have to struggle to eke out a living. Poverty seems to have become endemic to the cluster. So, what can be done to make the cluster dynamic and reduce the level of poverty? In order to address these issues, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, or UNIDO, in partnership with the government of Orissa, initiated a cluster development program. That was in 2005.
The cluster development approach hinges largely on joint action from the producers. See, there are a lot of things in a cluster which individual producers on their own cannot do or cannot handle. The cluster approach trains people, creates platforms and helps them take joint actions towards solving their problems and sometimes exploiting the opportunities that they have.
At the outset, the program carried out a detailed diagnostic study in order to understand the kind of challenges being faced by the cluster. The diagnostic study revealed that the weavers did not have strong institutions of their own. They faced a shortage of credit and were hampered by weak market linkages. The skills of some of the marginalized artisans needed upgradation, and the cluster had not absorbed any new technologies. Finally, communities lived in poor hygienic surroundings, and this was affecting their working lives. So how, for instance, was the shortage of credit weighing down on the weavers?
पुंजीर अभाव माने दुकान के देला में साड़ी माने दुकान के देला में सूता रंग नहीं जाउछु से नगद पैसा न देले 50 साड़ी रो अधिका चार्ज कोसु छी हमको आ से अधिका चार्ज कसवा लई हमर लाभ हाथी कमी जाउछि हाथी वर्तमान जदि ना ले भी हमर मंगा बंद हो जिबा सेतले हमें बाध्य तान अधिका रेट रे 50 साड़ी रो अधिका रेट रे हमें अनवार पड़ुछि सेटा
गुटे बछर के हमको 4-5 मास माने ऑक्सीजन ऐसी कपड़ा टिके बिक्री भल भाई ना होय बोला आमे यदि कपड़ा ना बिकु छु हमर घर चलाबार असुविधा हेसी तार साई सुता हिनबार असुविधा हेसी हमर यदि पूंजी थिता से कपड़ा के हमें ना बिकी करी रखी करी सीजन के सेटा बिकतु बोले सेटा जन 50-100 लगा गुटे गुटे पीस के कम हेसी से पैसाटा हेला हमर सब सुता हिनबार परिवार चलाबार टिके सुविधा.
No financial institution was willing to lend to individual weavers. So what about the weavers' cooperatives? Sadly, they had all become defunct, which is why the program organized the weavers into self-help groups in various villages. This, however, was not easy.
Initially, when I started working with this weaver community here in Barpali itself, I took lot of time to build simply trust with this weaver because I am a totally new person to them. Secondly, to form a group, the most important thing is that the weaver has to trust each other first. Because unless they trust each other, the group cannot be a strong group. So it took lot of time to build this trust among themselves also.
After some groups had emerged, it became possible to approach financial institutions.
After forming different groups of the weavers, I approached different financial sources, financial institutions like MFIs, that is BISWA, then Caste Foundation, then SDFC Bank. I gave them this concept of cluster development and I told them that we have already formed good groups in our villages and requested them to come forward to give credit to our weaver as per their own need. So these financial institutions, they came forward and they give loan, they give credit as per the business plan prepared by the weaving groups.
Loans from formal lending institutions have eased the weavers' working capital requirements.
लोन आनबार द्वारा आमर फायदा ये आमे आगो जन कम दाम रे माने साड़ी बिक्री करथनु आरो रंग सूताटा उच्चा दाम रे जन घेनुथनु लोन आनला पर आमे रंग सूता उचित दाम रे घिनिगिरी साड़ी बुनिगिरी जन कम दाम रे बिकुथनु साड़ी सेटा ना बिकिगिरी माने टाइम ऊपर आमे उचित दाम रे साड़ी बिक्री कलु और माने उचित मूल्य रे बिक्री करिगिरी आमे दु पैसा भल फायदा करि पारिगिरी यादे हमर परिवार के ठीक हिसाब आमे चले पारछु.
In many poor households, marginalized artisans are wage earners because they do not have tie and dye skills. A few of them buy tie and dye yarn directly from the market and then weave it. However, this leaves them with very little money.
बांधा में नहीं जाना कर बरपाइन लोग घिने आनु जो बोले घिनवा टाइम को पड़ी जो ये बेसी पैसा आरो हमार साड़ी देखला बिली तबने बेसी लाभ पे जो ना में कम पहुँचो टी बांधा बांधा लोग बेसी लाभ पहुँचो आरो हमें तरमाना साड़ी तैयार करा लोग कम पैसा पहुँचो.
Could some of the poorer women not be trained in this art? After all, they were the ones who did most of the pre-loom activities. That's why the program selected some women from Kusanpuri to be trained in tie and dye. However, finding a trainer was not easy.
Actually, all our trainees were from the Kuli community, but this particular tie and dye skill lies with the Bulia community people only. So these Bulia community people were very much reluctant to give training to the Kuli community people. So initially we had to spend lot of time in locating a trainer who can give training to these Kuli community people.
The training sessions finally began. The program provided the trainers' fees as well as all the material. Every member of the group paid 100 rupees as fees. 6 months later, they were ready to take their tie and dye products to the market.
Actually, after the training program, the women were able to make their own tie and dye yarn. And that time we insisted them to go directly to the market and sell the product to the weavers, to the trader there, so that they can know whether they are making the right kind of product and whether their product is actually marketable or not.
आमे जेन मार्केट के गलु पहलारू तो केंदी करी बांध बिकसन काना करसन ई सब बाबत नहीं करी आमे किछि नहीं जानते तापरे लोग माने भी हमको बहुत इटा करले हंसले बोले कि झियो माने सेनके नहीं जाउथे आ आमे पहलारू से जगह के गलु बोले झियो माने केनु बिकसन नेता सेंता बोल कर बहुत इटा कहले तापरे आमे से मानकर कथा के नहीं सुनी करी भी आमे गलु और पहलारू हमर बांध भी बिक्री नहीं होते तापरे धीरे धीरे करी आमटा भी बिक्री है और जेन माने ही हमको हंसी थिले से माने भी आस्ते आस्ते करी हमको डिजाइन माने सिखाले जे तुम्हें एंता डिजाइन माने जदी करबो बोला मार्केट न बिक्री हवा और भल 2 पैसा भी हवा बोली करी से माने निजे कहले.
Today, these Kusanpuri women have become skilled dyers. The artisans now do tie and dye at the household level, add value, and as a result, earn more.
हाँ बांधवा में आगरू जेनटा घिनिकी आनुलु से बेसी खर्चा होता तो यहाँ जिन झील मैंने निजे घर बांध करबार जानी सारी तो खर्चाटा सेन कमुचे आम सेन कि लाभवान पाई पारुछ आ खर्चा सेन ना निजे कर छुआ मैंने बांध सब कर शिखिक कर तो भल इम्प्रूव पाऊँ.
The diagnostic study had shown that the Barpali cluster continued using outdated technology. This was particularly true for all the pre-loom activities. Could productivity and quality not be improved by using better machines? In order to address this issue, the program urged weavers in Bandpalli to first come together. This led to the formation of the Bijayani Bunkar Self-Help Group.
After the group formation for technology intervention, we took our groups for the exposure visit to Pochampalli, Chirala and Varanasi. as Pochampalli is the similar cluster to our this Ikat cluster, and whereas Chirala and Varanasi is the one of the famous technology driven cluster in India.
बाहरे आमे देखलु एक्चुअली फ्री लूम रे से माने जतकी मशीन टेक्नोलॉजी प्रयोग करी काम करू जान सेने बहुत कम टाइम रे बेसी फायदा करि पारु जान बेले सेटा आमे देखलु हमर किछि मुडा ढुकला बेले आमे भी फ्री लूम रे कागरी मशीन टेक्नोलॉजी प्रयोग करी आमे कागरी फायदा नै करि पारमा से चिंता हमर मुडा रे ढुकी जे.
After coming back from the trip, some weavers invested in new machines. And then the group got the idea of actually manufacturing some of them.
आज जिन मशीन आम तैयार करूँ बहुत सक्सेसफुल होइछे पाखा पाखा हम बुणाकार भाई आसुले आम मशीन देखले देखि सारा पर हमको ऑर्डर कले आम सप्लाई भी करूँ पाखा पाखा लोग सप्लाई कलु आई दिन के 80टा मशीन सप्लाई कलु न और मध्य बहुत ऑर्डर आम पाखे बहुत अच्छी.
Artisans using these new machines have discovered that the benefits are significant.
आमे हमर मशीन काम करला बेलु आमे हमर टाइम केतनी बचु छे और आमे अधिका लुगा भी बुनी पारो छ और हमर परिवार के आमे सुधरी रखी पारो छ और हमर देहर परिश्रम जेनटा कम हो छे.
Barpali. This small town is an important retail hub for Ikat products. Many master weavers operate out of Barpali. They provide designs and yarn to weavers who they pay to make the finished products. These are then marketed by the master weavers. Fragmented as they are, master weavers have had a limited marketing outreach. How then could the program link them to the more demanding national markets? At the outset, the program facilitated them into forming their own self-help group. Members of this group then visited a number of exhibitions in different cities.
प्रोग्राम माध्यम रे हमें एग्जीबिशन गलु दिल्ली जाइथिलु बॉम्बे भी गलु पुना भी जाइथिलु तो सेनो हमें देखलु जे अलग अलग जिनिस माने अलग अलग वेराइटी रे चलु छी अलग अलग कलर माने चलु छी अलग अलग प्राइस रे भी जाउ छी तो से हिसाब रे हमें आसी गिरी से जिनिस माने हमें फिर तैयार करी गिरी हमें सेंता बाहर मार्केट की जीवार लगी जाई गिरी जिनिस फिर सेल करबार के हमर आत्मविश्वासटा अछि.
The next step for the program was to help them secure some order.
To create the national market tie-ups for the master weavers, we hired one textile designer who is expert in textile design as well as aware about the national market. She gave a series of series of samples of designs were made, which we shown to Fab India, and Fab India liked some of the designs, and they placed some orders, which orders are produced by our master weavers, which is around 5 to 6 lakhs, which gave them the confidence to participate in the national market.
Fab India is one of the most successful retail outlets for handcrafted products in India. The institution, with its focus on blending indigenous craft techniques with contemporary designs, can be very demanding as far as quality standards are concerned. Working closely with their own weavers, the Barpali group was able to execute the orders successfully. This has been an enormous confidence booster for the master weavers.
फेबिंडा तो नाम तो हमें आग्रू भी नहीं सुनी जिते फेबिंडा हमको मौका दे मिलला काम करवा लगी हमें से काम कलूँ आ हमर आत्मविश्वास बढ़ला आत्मविश्वास बढ़ी करी हमें से न निजे जाई करी ऑर्डर हमें तांको आनी करी हमें निजे तांको एबे दउचू एवं देबार के हमर साहस भी लछे से मानो हमर काम करवा लगी.
One issue that emerged in the diagnostic study was the high prevalence of illnesses in the weaving communities. Most poor families could not afford the medical treatment, and the lost working days simply made it worse. This is another area that the program sought to address.
Initially, we organized different kind of health awareness camp, health camp by the reputed doctors in the area, and we also took the help of experts from home economic training centers. So these people, these experts, they came here and organized these camps, and they gave us the feedback that poor sanitation is a big problem in this area. Then the federation took a decision to carry on the sanitation work in the village. So every month they are doing the sanitation camp in the village.
So what was this federation? As a part of its various initiatives, the program had helped to strengthen the existing women's self-help groups. This women's empowerment process was further reinforced when the groups federated to form large organizations called Maitri. One of its activities is to organize regular sanitation drives in the villages. It has also been able to use an existing government program to get sanitary latrines constructed for many villagers. Such initiatives are helping mitigate some of the chronic health problems. Addressing social issues, building institutions, facilitating credit, upgrading skills, introducing new technologies, and strengthening market linkages. A unique feature of the cluster development approach is that it deals with the entire value chain. That's because it believes strongly that it is value chains and not individual firms that compete in the market. And facilitating positive changes along this chain is an important professional, the Cluster Development Agent or the CDA.
A cluster development agent is a change agent placed in the cluster who has been trained extensively in the art and science of cluster development. The agent is able to identify the critical bottlenecks facing the cluster, and then by inducing collaboration between various producers and various other cluster actors, he or she is able to find solutions to those critical bottlenecks.
So what makes for a successful cluster development agent or CDA?
CDA also has to have big ears, somebody who's willing to listen, somebody who's willing to understand the issues, somebody who's willing to go out to those types of the people and pick up the real constraints that they face. Cluster development agent may or may not be a subject expert. For example, in a weaving cluster, it is not essential that the CDA is an expert in weaving or in dyeing. But what a CDA essentially specializes in is the ability to locate solutions and bring those solutions through networking to the cluster.
Interacting constantly with the artisans and often drawn from the community is the network development agent.
Quite often the clusters that we work in are widely spread, either over few villages or over few industrial areas. In such cases, it's not feasible for a CDA to be in touch with the networks, with the SHGs, with the federations on a day-to-day basis. Quite often, people from the community, boys and girls from the community, are taken in as network development agents who look after these networks, these groups, handhold them in day-to-day decisions and find solutions to critical bottlenecks.
Effective cluster development agents and network development agents can set in motion an important process of change. In the Barpali cluster, for instance, over 530 weavers have availed of credit of around 76 lakh rupees from banks and microfinance institutions. Weavers have achieved an additional sale of more than 1 crore rupees, and the average income of around 400 weavers has gone up by 400 rupees to 700 rupees per month. The cluster has installed over 200 modern machines, and this has boosted productivity and quality. Clearly, the seeds of change have been planted.